Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where and when you're watching us from. My name is Mutathi Wachira Wanyaga Mujiro wa mbari ya Karigithi na ngwihoka kuma ngongo ciothe iria ciumaga huho. Muri thayo. Today is another beautiful day that we say the Lord has made. It is the second day of July, the year is 2023, and oh my, it has been a good day. And I think it is also going to be a very nice conversation that we're going to be having here today. We are speaking about African spirituality. You're talking about the state of African spirituality, and especially when it comes and pertains to matters the African people. So, as you guys can see on your screen there, we have a wonderful guest panel lined up for you. And I don't know where will I start. Okay, let me start with Omar. Omar, please introduce yourself and tell us what you do and anything you'd like to share with the African Kona audience.
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Omar Maulid. Today I'm here in the capacity of Salam Mental Encounter, where we walk between the cultural and religious divides. So I'm hoping to have fun. I'm hoping to learn from you guys, as I hope that you will learn a thing or two from me. So thank you.
Thank you, Omar, for being here and the entire Salam fraternity. Over to the next guest, we have Karugu. Karugu, please introduce yourself and tell us what you do and anything about you like to share with us today.
Okay, my name is Karugu Akiugo, the Moboy wa Barea Getwiki, and I'm a psychologist, but more so I'm the sort of psychologist who's interested in decolonizing psychology and Africanizing it, and which is part of the reason I'm very, very honored to be part of this discussion today, because we're here to discuss the spirit, which is at the core root of many psychological issues. And I'm looking forward to engage in this conversation and learn from this. And I'm also, again, and I will reiterate this, very, very pleased that we have a young person such as you, Ashira, leading this very, very, very at the forefront of this movement on raising African consciousness. So big up with the good work and looking forward to this conversation.
Much appreciated, Karugu. Thank you very much also for sparing your time to be here. And over to Benedict. Benedict, how are you? Tell us what you do and anything you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, basically I'm Benedict, a priest in potentiality, but not in actuality, trying to transcend the human values so that we can get somewhere with the gods. And yes. I hope you'll enjoy this show. It's a good opportunity to be in African Kona. So let us explore what lies behind this corner, because what is good, what is more real is what we can't see. So I'll be your guest. I'm a student of philosophy. Yes. Not only philosophy, African philosopher. Indeed. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you, Benedict. Benedict is always asking me, what is in this corner? So I hope today you'll find out what is in this corner. And I like the way you say you're a priest in potentiality and not in actuality. Okay, this guy is always a vibe. He's just a philosopher down to the core. And I don't know, I had something, Benedict, I had somebody say, what do we call a priest who graduates from law school? Call him a father-in-law. So I am somewhere. Anyway, so over to the show. I can see some comments are coming in. Already people are coming in. Masharia Mwangi, Mwangi Masharia Kajim is in the house. We have Ann Kyugo saying, tuned from Lusaka. Hug to my bro Karugu Kyugo. And also we see Masharia Mwangi saying I'm in, and we also see Masharia Mwangi tuned from KCAU, that is KTA University. Thank you very much. So continue sending in your comments, continue sending in your responses to us, and we'll be responding to them. Also see another very good friend sending in a comment called Kevin Vidzo following. Good to see you guys. Let's do this. It's good to be seen and not viewed, Vidzo. So I hope you will enjoy this. Now, guys, I'd like us to, first of all, understand whatever is happening in the country and also in the entire continent. We see, especially in our beloved country, Kenya, you see what was happening in Shakahola, or rather is still happening. People have been buried. Over 400 people have been, unearthed. and we see people killing each other, people in relationships, and just things that are happening in this country. The country is going wild, and it just begs the question: what is happening to the African spirit? What is happening to the African soul? I think it is high time now we ask ourselves the question that, despite the fact that we have all these issues, economical issues, mental health issues, disease issues, but we have not addressed the question of the African spirit. I know these things were not there initially, maybe a long time ago, as much as they are today. And that's why it is important for us, from various diverse groups that we represent and come from, we ask ourselves this question. That's why I'm going to start with a very, very simple question. Maybe let me start with Omar once again. You have said you are from Salam and you're also a Muslim. A very simple question. What does it mean to be a Muslim, especially an African Muslim? Omar, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry,
ahead.
I didn't get the question. Sorry. Can you read it again?
So I was asking, or rather, I'm asking a very simple question. So for us to start from that point, that we have various different religious backgrounds, various spiritual backgrounds, and I'm going to start with yours. Very simple question: what does it mean to be an African Muslim?
Thank you for that question. As we know, in Africa, Islam has existed in the Kenyan coastline for thousands of years. That is, of course, all the way from the Somalia Strip all the way to Tanzania Strip. That is what I can talk about, because that is what I've researched about. And that being a Kenyan Muslim, it has a lot to do with the fusion of culture. It has a lot to do with the values that religion came with it, to such an extent that the values of the community and the values of the religion have in a way kind of matched to actually form one single entity. So the value system of our communities where we come from has made us be who we are because of what we have been taught in the madrasa, what we have learned in the community. Yeah, and as we know, any day, anytime, culture is strategy for breakfast. So yeah, I don't know if I answered it correctly.
I think you've answered it to the best of your ability. Now, let me go to Benedict. Benedict, I don't know if you can still hear me, but I also want to ask you the same question. What does it mean to be an African Christian, or a Christian who's an African? I don't know which one you prefer, an African Christian or an African who's a Christian.
I think I will start up its approach from the Aristotelian logic, that the antecedent can never be greater than the consequent. And therefore, if we put it being a Christian who is an African, then we can see that the predicate African surpasses the Christianity. You know, the effect cannot be greater than the cause. So it means to be a Christian who is an African means someone who is balanced. First, attaining your values, understanding your African values, the Ubuntu philosophy, having those African values in you so that you can integrate it with Christianity. And therefore, whoever calls himself an African and a Christian and doesn't have those basic roots of Africanicity in him, then he's lying to himself. He's not a Christian. He's not or rather, it's not an African Christian. He's just a Christian who has an African face.
Benedict, I've been asking Omar, is he an African who's a Muslim or a Muslim who's an African? He has never answered me that question. So please go ahead. I don't know if he'll be answering that question today.
And therefore, we need to ask ourselves, who is an African first? Who is an African? Because we have people who have married a Kenyan and then they become African. Those are not Africans. Those are just examples. Those are peripheries of Africanicity. So an African must have those ancestral roots in Africa. It's not necessary to be black, but those are ancestral roots, knowing your language. Therefore, after knowing who you are, then Christianity becomes an appetizer. An appetizer because you have the main dish. So when you combine the two, now you can able to transcend the African values guided by the European religion to attain the actuality of the human person. Therefore, to be a Christian who is an African is to understand the anthropology of yourself, then integrate it with the foreign religion and to make sense of reality. I think I lived at that point.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Karugu, you have heard where they have left us, and I know you'll be having a very hard task. I don't know how you're going to pick it from there. So, one thing we are hearing from Omar, and the same thing that I'm hearing from Benedict, is that despite Islam, despite Christianity, one thing stands out, that we are all African. And that's why we are here to discuss about the status of the African spirit, the status of the African soul. And for you, you are also a very, let me use this word, a very staunch person who is especially on matters of African tradition and especially on Odoire. So what now do you gather from what we're hearing, and also tell us what does it also mean for African tradition, especially in matters pertaining to the spirit?
Okay, so well, I can gather first of all that we happen to have a panel of people who think and who truly understand that these religions that people are part of today were brought to us, and even when you join them, first you're an African. So that is very interesting to note that, because for most people who belong to these major religions, they just happen to be part of them and lose their Africanness once they join them. So being an African on matters spirituality is first of all understanding that even before coming of the white man, and even before coming of the Arab to our continent and to our shores, we had our own forms and ways of believing and worshiping and engaging in matters of the spirit. And our ways of very, very, very advanced. We have happened to lose some of these ways. We've lost our sacredness on so many levels. And being an African on matters spirituality is trying to participate in the activities of the spirit that our ancestors had found, which brought them in such a beautiful and profound connection with the sacred. And we used to live in cultures our cultures were intertwined with our spirituality, for example, such that if you are a Luo, if you are Kikuyu, your Kikuyuness was not just your tribe, it was also how you believed and worshipped. So being an African on matters spirituality, but traditionally it was very individual, in the sense that it was all about your relationship with the sacred. There are no people. We do not have like bodies and laws, making people worship or do these other things. It was encouraged, and you found yourself, because you thrived in the spirit of your culture, to participate in these endeavors. Anyways, it is understanding what your ancestors used to do and how they used to connect with the sacred, and also trying to participate in that way. Yes.
Thank you. Karugu, in our culture, there is something that is called Adhamaki Keda Muyuru Akihoto. And one of them is called Muigwidhania, or we can call him a statesman. The work of that person who's a statesman is to tell people, that means that when we are, having such kind of a discourse, does not mean we hate each other. And that's what I want also to push forward. That you see, despite the fact that we have Omar from Islam, we have Benedict from Christianity, and people who also have come from various different backgrounds, does not mean that we hate each other. And that's why I also want to bring this question back to you, Omar. Are you drawing any similarity from either of these groups that you can say, even in our religion, I think we share this as a similarity? Omar? I don't know if Omar can hear me. I think he's experiencing some network issues or something. Omar, can
Yeah, I
you
can
hear
hear
us?
you, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes,
Did you
I
hear the
can.
question?
Not clearly though.
No,
But
I was
I
saying,
loved
you loved what? Okay, we have lost him, but I think he'll be back. Benedict, let me go back to you. You know, you have heard what Karua said. You have heard what Omar has said. Are you drawing any similarity, especially from your Christian background, with whatever is being said here?
Um, pardon?
I'm asking.
Mhm.
Can you hear me, Benedict?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah, are you drawing any similarities from Omar, from Karugu, especially from your from your Christian background?
I think we are shaped by Thomas Hobbes speaks of the social construct. We are shaped
Mm,
by the environment in which we grow in. And I will tell you honestly, if I grow up without the Western influence,
mhm,
my spirituality could be still firm as it is now. Why do I say this?
mhm,
Sometimes we tend to see in a epistemic notion of the European people that they bring out a transcendental God, in
mhm,
which we attribute our being to that supreme being. But I want to tell you honestly that Rodolph Alto in his book, The Sacred, it is we worship because of fear. That's
mhm.
one. It's because of fear. I tell
Yeah.
you, Washira,
Yes.
if you can wake up tomorrow by your own power, you will not worship God. The people that people call God, and the
Yeah.
Christians watching this, please, I'm not against any religion.
Yes.
I'm just saying that we worship because of fear rather than
Yes.
love,
Yeah.
and therefore we fear that if we don't worship this God, if we sin, we'll go to hell. Remove
Mm,
hell, and people will live like Nietzsche.
mm,
Yeah, I didn't I give it for free.
yeah.
Remove the concept of hell, and you
Yeah.
find Washira being carried out drunkard in the streets of Nairobi, because
Yes.
after all there is no judgment. There is
Yes.
no what Christians call the final judgment, and
Mhm,
therefore we should still find what is that which makes
mm,
spirituality to be a
mm,
spirituality. Is
mm.
it fear, or is it love, or is it being hedonistic?
Yes.
And therefore, looking at our African context, by the way, I'm a very fan of the Akan God. I'm very friendly
Mm,
to Akan God because
mm,
Akan God is a God who understands his own people. In fact,
mhm,
he doesn't just punish anyhow. But now
mm,
here we are faced with a European God. In fact,
mhm,
that's why they don't draw Jesus when he's black. They say our God is white.
yes.
And therefore, there are some values in Africa like a
Mm,
fraternity. Let's take the idea of
mhm,
fraternity. You
mhm,
find that the Wagikuyu people, if you
mm,
go and do your livestock, you are farming, that
mm,
harvesting of kahawa, you share with the poor, those who don't have. It is a
mm,
division of proper division of labor. It is not
mm,
that the European spirituality brought something new to us,
mm,
but
mm,
it comes to reinforce that which we never knew.
mhm,
So it's not that we are trying we are trying to get a grasp or hold of this God and to
mm,
make ourselves Christian who are Africans. No, in
mm,
African spirituality, in fact, it's African spirituality whereby we attribute all things to different gods.
mm,
And these people, they call it polytheism. It is against Christianity. You find
mm,
the person we call God is the trio in Christian
mm,
perspective. You have God
mm,
the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. But when
mm,
you come to the African culture, the Akamba people, when you have the
mhm,
God of the sun, the God of the moon, the God of the rain, and the God of fertility, it
mm,
becomes an issue. And
mhm,
therefore, it's upon us to understand first, as I said, the anthropology of an African person, so
mhm,
that by knowing identity, who we are, we can
mhm.
transcend and welcome the European thought. Otherwise,
Okay.
we will become,
Okay.
otherwise,
But
we just become something else.
am I getting it from you that I read somewhere that fear is the greatest armor of the church. So am I getting that from you? Is that really the greatest armor of the church?
You are entering at a very poisonous laboratory,
Okay,
Washira.
let me not get there. Let me not get there because I wanted Karugu also to tell me something on that because they say if I wake up today and I'm found drunk in the streets of Nairobi because there is no God, maybe these people who do that, maybe they don't think there is God, but that's a topic for another conversation.
Or maybe they have transcended the idea of God.
Oh, they have gone up. Yeah, I like that. This
Beyond
man
good
is
and
oozing
evil. Actually,
wisdom today.
they are beyond good and evil. What lies between after beyond good and evil? What else? Of
Mhm.
course, is the man has realized himself. But
Yes.
because I'm in this gown, I I have to substantiate my statements so
Mm.
so that we remain intact. And
I
I
hope
think
also I hope Karugu will be telling us something similar to that, especially with Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is there something that deals with transcending, above that? Benedict, as you're saying, please go ahead.
yeah, I'm saying there is something beyond good and evil,
Hmm.
and that should be the foundation of our knowledge.
Okay.
Therefore, African spirituality we must transcend that.
Hmm.
We should not become the Karugu and mine and Washira. We don't
Yes.
have spirituonometer. We don't have spirituonometer
Yes.
to measure how Christianity has integrated the African, and the Africans integrated the European culture,
Yes.
and therefore we should re-emphasize
Mm.
on Ubuntu-ness of
Yes.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if you cannot love our neighbor who's close to us, as the Christianity tells us, how will we be able to love someone beyond us? And this brings the
Mm.
individualism of what? Of religion. Because
Hmm.
man is in a state of nature, says Thomas Hobbes.
Hmm. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm saying again, this guy is just oozing, wisdom here. And Omar, you had left us briefly. I know it's some network issues, but please also just respond to what I had asked you earlier. I was asking, you have heard what Karu had just said earlier. You heard what Benedict is saying and was saying that time. Are you drawing any similarity from especially from your Muslim background? Are you drawing any similarity from what you're hearing here today?
Um, I want to echo a little bit about the Africanacity. Us being Africans.
Mhm.
For us Africans, a big percentage, and I think we've had this conversation before. A huge percentage of Africans, when we were worshipping our God, was almost monotheic, in that we worshipped one God.
Mhm.
But now, I'm not going to mention names, but when someone came and saw us kneeling before a tree or slaughtering a goat before a tree, they assumed we were worshipping the trees. When they saw us in the graveyards, in one capacity or the other one, communicating to a dead human being, we were viewed as if we were worshipping our dead people. This is me talking as an African, yeah? I'm trying to talk a little bit as an African. So they felt there was need for us to revolutionize how we talk to our God. So there is a lot of similarity, but I still think the way he said, a lot of Ubuntu has to come into play.
Yeah.
And I always like the story of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. He said, when the guy came, when the white man came to Africa, he came with the Bible. And Africans had the land, they had the cattle, and they had all that was fertile. And he taught us to read, write, and probably do something a little bit better. And then he asked us to pray. And when he asked us to pray, he told us to close our eyes. We closed our eyes, we prayed. And when we opened our eyes, we had the Bible and he had the land.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a lot of similarity, but I emphasize on Africanacity.
Okay. Thanks, man, for that.
Benedict almost.
You see, there's a reason why I have wanted to draw a similarity between you and Benedict, so that now Karugu can be able to chime in. You see, Karugu, at least you are coming to a conclusion, rather, or a sort of not really a conclusion, but we are agreeing that we have something similar. And because you have something similar, then now let us move out of now the cosmos or the microcosms of our various religious backgrounds. And we say that despite the fact that I am a Muslim, despite the fact that I am a Hindu, despite the fact that I am a Christian, at the end of the day, I'm an African. We have been taught here by Benedict that it has to come the president and the antecedent. Now, point blank, Karugu, for you, is now moving forward, and especially what is happening right now in the country, we are seeing a lot of people. Let me say, the spirit is not at peace. So, is there anything good that is happening to the spirit, especially if you now conjoin it with our religion, Karugu?
Okay.
Oh, we have lost Karugu there again. I see some comments are coming in. We see we have somebody by the name of Kotho Pondo, all the way from Camdi Voice, is saying we are following. Thank you, Koth. We also have Juliet Miner saying amazing talk with this genius man. Well, thank you, Juliet. We also have Okotho Pondo saying before we know
Can
we
you guys
are
hear me?
going,
Can you hear me?
we must know where we are coming from. Our history must be valued. We can't start accepting foreign spirits before embracing ours. And he's also saying our ancestors used to worship facing mountains, the sun, and in forest. The white man came and told us that our method of worship were evil. Here the Bible says Moses and Jesus worshipped the same way. And we also have Frederick Wanjala Nafula saying, just joined. Thank you, guys. Continue sending in your comments. Karugu, I hope now you can hear us and you're back.
Yes, I'm back. So you can hear me, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Benedict had mentioned something about religion and fear, which I think is very, very true. I tend to say to my friends that as much as we think it's Jesus who holds Christianity together, Satan does a very good job at that too. Because without him, we will not scare people into, giving tithe and worshiping and all these other things, which I think is something that is very, very different from what we used to do. You see, in the African spirituality, we do not have the idea of hell or Satan. And one similarity, by the way, amongst all these religions, at a very, very fundamental level, what people want to do is what Benedict talked about, transcending the good and evil, transcending the dualities of life. And once you transcend these things, you become one with that which is divine. And that has been the goal of every spiritual tradition throughout history, all over the world. People have always had the need to connect with the divine. They've always had this sense that there's something divine about nature and about the whole of the universe, and they've always wanted to participate in the act of improving their spirituality by connecting with that which is very divine. So, and now one thing that changed when the white man came is that we tended to leave our issues on spirituality to some leader to lead us, and some of these leaders like Mackenzie and many others have led people down paths that were not necessarily the best for them. And that is because, unlike in our traditional forms of spirituality where everybody had their own connection with the sacred, of course following guidelines that had been set by those who had come before them, you charted your own path, and you did not do that just out of fear. You did it because you found something beautiful in connecting with the sacred. And we are at at a point in history where we have so many crises, psychological and spiritual. And one of the many reasons that is the case is because we, for example, lost our connection with the sacred. I normally say if I had a time machine, there are two times in history I would travel to. One being, Germany before the 1930s, but when Hitler was rising to power. But the other time would be a traditional Kikuyu sacrificial ceremony, because that was something that was very revered. You see, the reverence that we had for what is divine, we lost that completely. People nowadays go to church for is a sacrifice with the sacrifice has led people.
We keep losing Karugu. I think he's also having some network issues there. But I hope he'll be back. I hope Karugu will just be back in a very brief moment. But he had mentioned something there, and I like to hear Omar. He has said that Saturday is doing a very good job in the Bible and to whole Christianity. Melinda will be also telling us that. But is that happening also in in Islam? Is Satan doing a very good job there, holding that religion together? And how do you think about that?
Omar, tell us if Satan is still recruiting more in Islam.
There's a Newton's law of motion, where for every positive action there is a negative and equal reaction, and I like that a lot. I think without the influence of that guy, from when he was a snake and convinced Eve to actually do that thing with the apple, which I think is very symbolic, by the way. I hope I'm very audible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear you.
Yeah, so I feel from that time, till death, I think there's a lot that is moving. He's doing it in different ways, and one of the things that we believe, there is a guy called Masih Dajjal. For Christianity, they call them the Antichrist. That is going to do a whole lot worse than what we are actually experiencing right now. So I think he's right. I think Karugu is very right. Yeah, but I'd also like to add that it is not the first time that we are getting religious colonization, even before Christianity came or before Islam came. And this is just me trying to admit into Karugu's text. One, everybody knows the story of the Queen of Sheba. Yeah? And how the Queen of Sheba left to actually go see Solomon. And like what Karugu was saying, that I think I saw it coming somewhere, that we used to worship the sun, we used to kneel before the sun, and all that was symbolic. And that it was symbolic to something greater, something bigger. We were using them as a way that it permits back to God. So this woman had that in his society. He had that within his people. And then a time came and he had to go to go see King Solomon. And when this queen came back to Ethiopia, he had to tell his people that now you have to stop worshiping your gods, and that you have to worship this God, this one God, this God of Solomon. The reality of it is that it's not Solomon. He was basically saying that you guys have to stop worshiping your God, and now you have to worship the God of my boyfriend. So I kind of found that fascinating. So I was just putting it up there.
Yeah, it is good you have put that there. But okay, so we are agreeing that the way Karu is saying that the devil, Satan, the character of Satan is really doing good for the. I don't know, Benedict, how you'll respond to that. But let me hold you there, Omar and Benedict, and go back to Karu. Karu, you were saying something before we lost you. I don't know if you can now hear us, and please proceed with everything.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I was trying to explain how we've lost our sense of the sacred, which is very, very, very core on our matter spirituality. You see, because the idea of the spirit is that there's a higher and more divine spirit that we should, adore and worship and revere. And now the traditional ways of worshiping people, when people used to go and worship under a Mugumo tree, used to
Sorry, I think you're losing Karugu there. Network issues. Karugu is also having some network issues. But I can see some comments coming in. Let me read them just quick. We have Leave, Laugh, and Love saying is tuned. Madubi Robert saying Madubi is in. Welcome, Madubi. And we have Leave, Laugh, and Love saying, let God be God and let's worship how our ancient fathers showed us. The West has really messed us. That's why it never works. But God is sacred. and a god of sacrificial gifts and ceremonies. He also says, I would wish one day to join as a guest in such a topic. Yes, don't worry. Next time we'll invite you so that you can also share with us your sentiments, so that you can also live, laugh, and love with you. Yeah, so Karugu, can you now hear us? Are you back?
Yes, I'm back, and maybe before, I think the white man does not want me to deliver this message with this technology, because what I'm trying to say is that since the white man came, first of all, we see, we used to know that God is within us. God is in nature. God is in the animals. God is in the trees. But then the idea comes that God is somewhere up in the sky, and despite the fact that there's some religious patriarchs like Jesus, for example, he tried to explain to people that the kingdom of God is within you, and for some reason that just does not happen to be properly understood by many people who follow this faith. And now we tend to act in ways of finding God in the sky and all these many other funny ways of believing where you can find the divine. Yet we truly understood that the divine is found within us. And once we lost that idea that we have a divine spark within all of us that is very godly, that you as an individual, and the funny thing is that at a very, as I said earlier, at a very fundamental level, we are the very same. We are trying to help the man, the human spirit, to be more in touch with the divine. Though some of these doctrines and ideas that some of these faiths have come up with have led us different paths, but at a very fundamental level, we're all trying to be in touch with the divine. And once we lost, first of all, the idea of the sacred and why we should revere it properly, and that it is found even within us, then that led us to leaving the matters of our spirit to other people to lead us. And now people, they're just following some doctrines: do not do this, do not do that, and they end up in so much spiritual crises. And that can explain a lot of the issues we have in the society right now, like depression and so many mental health issues, because the spirit, if your spirit is not you're not in touch with something that is higher than yourself, and you're not making sense of life, then you do not find meaning, and you end up in all these issues that are afflicting today's souls. Anyways, what we should try to do, this is what I think, and it surely works, is understanding that we're all trying to achieve the same thing. We're all trying to make, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're Islam, whether you're whatever you are, you're trying to connect the human being with the divine. And one other thing, and especially on matters duality, I like the idea that Nietzsche brought about when he said God is dead, for example. And you see, the idea of Satan being a major factor in religion is that many people source their morality in their religion, which is not technically right. As in, morality should just exist. You should know this is wrong and this is that. But when your source of morality is religion, and then this religion is taken away from you, or it stops making sense to you, then you end up like Washira in the streets, drunk, because nobody is telling you not to drink, and that is because you think how you should act should be, you should be told by a certain way of living. And that is why you find many people who start awakening and realizing there's something funny about these religions that were brought to us. Many of them, and Nietzsche tried to warn us. Many atheists like to say God is dead, as if that was a triumphant proclamation by Nietzsche. It was not. Nietzsche was warning us that when you remove the substrata that has been the foundation of the Western civilization from society, which was God, because the Western civilization was built on Christianity, when you take that away from people, then you're going to devolve into what we saw in the communist Russia, because communism was a very atheistic way of leading government and all these other things, and people suffered as a result of that, because without something very fundamental and basic controlling how you think and behave, then you get into a lot of issues. So the point is, our societies and our African ways of believing and worshiping, they were not, you did these things because you found a lot of meaning and a lot of joy in them. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Karugu. You said the white man is against you. Before he becomes against you again, let me say this. There's somebody who tells me I give you a special shout out. And he's saying that Today we really have a good panel and diverse panel here, and it is lit, and he loves it. And especially Karugu, yenyewe first class ya psychology was well deserved. Our chess instructor is taking no hostage in the debate. Maze Karugu, your chess guys are here with you. So that is from Mabango Timothy. Timothy Mabango is also a friend of this show. He was with us here Wednesday. We were talking about the finance bill. So we appreciate you, Timothy, for also watching us live. Now, Benedict, you have been you have had something that has been said. The character of Satan is really doing good for Christianity. I know you want to respond to that. I know you really want to respond to that. Please go ahead.
I will say that if we are not careful, even at the onset of our life, we will have something we call religious diarrhea.
Mm.
We'll be rushing.
Say that again. Say that again.
At the onset of our life, we diagonize with the religious diarrhea, which is non-stop. It's something that we can never stop, and therefore our understanding of Satan or the powers has to be re-evaluated, because we speak of Satan as if it's an objective reality out there. It's a person, it's a human, it's someone who convincing us. And actually speaking, you might find this one is just a force. It's in a material force that we cannot perceive with our eyes, but it's something which is good against the good spirit. And here we are disturbed by the dichotomy of the spirits. And therefore, I'd say first let me acknowledge my lecturer, Dr. Wanjala. He has just joined.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, we are welcome. So we can see that there's something that Karugo has said about Nietzsche in his book, The Genealogy of Morals. I think that extract, he speaks about that we should not so much embrace what he calls slave morality. Slave morality, whereby the traditions will tell you, oh, don't do this, oh, do this, oh, there is life after death, there's this and this. It imprisons us. It takes away our ability to think, because it dogmatizes our religion, our spirituality. And therefore, that's why I say, when Shira had to welcome me, I had to make sure that I told him that a man is never free. We don't have absolute freedom, because the religion has put us behind the bars. We are prisoners who are free prisoners.
Yes.
Secondly, we should reevaluate our religions. Islamic traditions have to be revised again. Christianity, Judaism. Let us look on those elements that entie us and chain us, whereby we cannot move. And therefore, if we need to be free, there is a need to reevaluate our religious traditions, our religious practices, our Africanicity, so that we can have a pure and diverse religion, whereby you can say, I'm an African who is a Christian, but a free. First of all, freedom.
Yes.
Secondly, if that will not happen, then we might have a big movement in the future, whereby the future will advocate for ethics to replace religion, because people are more united in ethics of right and wrong without ascribing it to some supernatural being. That makes us the same. And therefore, let me try to show you how a good Christian or a Muslim should be valued or should be re-examined. In this case, Washira and Karugo and my fellow Omar. Any religion that advocates for destruction of human life, that's not a true religion. Let us agree about the dignity of the human person. The dignity of the human person should be at the core of every religion. And therefore, that's what we need to reevaluation before we suffer from religious diarrhea. From Islamic kwashako, from Judaism anemia. They should be reevaluated so that we can have a pure and concise religion. And therefore, I call each and everyone, even our viewers here, we should not actively condemn the European religion, because we were vulnerable when they came. When you read the letter of King Leopold II to the Congo, he told the missionaries, Tell them the poor will inherit the kingdom of God, so that they forget the minerals underground, while we wait to evaluate them, and then we become. So religion can be used as a tool
Yes.
to manipulate the less fortunate in the society, and
Yeah.
therefore understand our Africanicity will be able to diorganize these European Kwashako religious practices to be a pure deal. Let us stop condemning Satan, because Satan is not an objective reality. Let us condemn our
Okay.
evaluate them and understand them at the core of our human existence,
Okay.
and therefore will acquire a full capacity to become fully human.
Yes.
That's why in the book of Psalms they say, and therefore you are gods. How can you become a god without knowing who you are? And I
Yes.
like the quote that one of our viewers said, that you cannot know where you are coming from, where you don't know where you're coming from. That
Yes.
I think was attributed by Margaret Ogola in this book, The River and the Source.
The
Therefore,
source,
let us our anthropological roots. Let us know who we are before we suffer from religious kwashako, religious
Yes.
anemia, religious diarrhea. Thank you.
We hear you. We hear you, Benedict. We hear you loud and clear. I hope you're not going to suffer from that, or we stop suffering from that if you're suffering from it already. And you're actually leading me to the next question, which I also want to take start with Omar also with that. You see, we have this the question of radicalization, especially in Africa, and to be specific, religious radicalization. And you know, Omar, your religion has been really, you know, associated with it, and people are saying this and you know all that, of which we also find it. Some of it are not true. You know, there's a lot of discussions here and there. I want us to start also from have that discussion that what is especially in this thing that we call religious radicalization, especially in Africa, especially when we hear about these things like jihadi and all that is happening in Africa. What then does such kind of things leave the state of the African spirit at, Omar?
Yeah, it's a good question. I love that question always, almost all the time. Now, you look at the question jihad. Jihad basically means strife. That means to struggle. To struggle, that means we don't necessarily mean to struggle in a specific manner, but just to struggle in the way of being spiritually positive, spiritually capable, and being spiritually present among the populace. That is the people that are around you. So when you look at the word jihad, I think it's always misconstrued. It's always misexplained. It's always it's viewed differently. Now, where is the source of that? You've heard of the word holy war, which most people quote as the word jihad. Holy war comes old and time again, and this is where Benedict, I want us to talk a little bit. Pope Urban III. Pope Urban III stood at some point and he gave a speech, and he talked about the word holy war. I think that is where it actually started from. And over the years, when that happened, the crusade, and then there are a variety of wars coming over and over again, a section of Muslims, and I'm putting it in quote, Muslims, actually copied the word holy war. But there's nothing holy about war. Holy and war cannot coexist in the same space. I have over 5 Quranic verses that I can give you that actually place human life as sacred, and it is to be preserved. Now, I'll give a very simple context that almost no one will disagree about. Now, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Quran talks about the simple good acts. There's something I think Benedict talked about that love your neighbor as you love yourself. It's a concept, and that when he was walking towards a specific place, he would needles, amoeba is a meat, and he would place them along the side of the road or somewhere where it can't hurt a human being. It can't hurt a human being. And the essence of that was that he was doing that for animals. He was doing that for peoples, whether you're Muslim or not. Now, I'm giving a second concept, is that the first time when the prophet of ours was moved from Makkah to Medina, I'm not going to talk about Jesus because Benedict is here. He has done a lot about that. Is that the people who welcomed him were non-Muslims. These were guys who had their own ways of worship. And the first thing that they actually did was to actually have some form of agreement whereby we are agreeing that should we have disasters occupy this particular city or come to us or befall us, as a community, we are going to congregate, bring resources together, and then now find ways as we that we are going to actually face these disasters. So I don't think whoever is doing it, and I'm putting again quote unquote jihad, is actually doing it for the right reasons.
Yes.
Time and time again, when you look at the core of most of these groups, extremists, the intents are not always pure. So I'd say jihad is always misconstrued. So I'd leave it at that. So there's a lot we don't know about, and part of what we do in Salam is to make sure that people are well educated, people are well knowledgeable, and we put content out there to just make sure that people are learning this.
Yeah, I think that's a really good starting point, that at least we agree and we are able to know that it is misconstrued, and we do not know everything, rather than us just stigmatizing, religions and all that. I think it's good that we know that it is misconstrued, and later then we'll now start getting into the content of it. But Karugu, leave alone radicalization in Islam, radicalization in Christianity, we also have some sort of radicalization in our tradition, especially the community that you come from, which I happen also to come from. You have had over time where people were there in the Odoire, and they are there. It's a sort of radicalization. What also is that now justified when you talk about the African spirit? You say, his radicalization is about us, about Africans. It is not coming from external sources. What about that, Karugu?
Okay, radicalization has nothing to do with belonging to a particular religion. Radicalization has to do with a corrupt human spirit, or an improper understanding of what it means to be spiritual. Because let me tell you one thing, a truly spiritual individual is not interested in changing the spirituality of another person. And that is why in our forms of spirituality, you never found any forms of evangelism, people trying to change each other. You never found Kikuyus preaching to Masais, let us believe in the Kikuyu God or something like that. Or you never found Kikuyus, even within the Kikuyu community, trying to change people who do not believe in God. Because spirituality was something that was very personal. It was so personal because our forms of worship was not just worshiping God, it also involved worshiping ancestors. And the ancestors that you worshipped were usually the people down, in your lineage. You poured some libation to them and so on and so forth. So on matters of radicalization, and this is what we should try to achieve. We should try to get to a point. And sometimes I think about Jesus, and I think Jesus, he was a true Modoire, he was a true African spiritualist, or a true Buddhist, or a true spiritual human being. Because this is what Jesus said. He said, do not judge. Do not judge at all. But now look at us in this Islam and Judaism and Christianity and even Odoire. We're just sitting there in our spirituality, condemning people in Shakahola, condemning people in jihad, condemning people all over the place. And this is not anywhere in our religions, because if you truly respect the idea that you're divine and that you're a God within you, then, and I love, you see, the Indians greet each other with namaste. And see, that's a very profound greeting. Namaste means the divine in me honors the divine in you. And if you truly honor the divine in another person, then you have no, first of all, you're not in any moral or spiritual authority to say that how they are leading their matters of the spirit is wrong. Like, who the hell are you? Like, who gives you this power to say that how your way of believing is better? It doesn't even matter if Shakahola is leading people to kill 1,000 people. That only God should judge. Let me say this, and this is very radical. Only God should judge. Like, the individual should only be concerned with their own spirituality. And that is what we tried to enforce in the African ways of believing. Like, you never found people judging other people. And until you've gotten to a point that you're not interested at all in judging anybody for how they live their way and how they practice their faith, then you're still to grow spiritually. You have a long journey to go, because we've become so corrupted, and rather, you see, there's this movie called Prison Break that some of us have watched. There was an Islam guy there, and he said something that I've never forgotten, and something that is very beautiful. He said the real jihad is within you. The real jihad is within you. So all these battles that we are trying to fight,
I agree.
you should first fight them within yourself. And I'm telling you guys, should you manage to fight these battles within you that tell you to judge other people, that make you think that you're a better person, maybe because you go to church more, maybe because you practice African spirituality, maybe because you're a philosopher, maybe you know the Quran a little bit more. If you fight those demons and telling you are better than others, than the other person, then you've won the jihad. And I'm telling you, your own way of living, even without trying to evangelize, you naturally draw people towards you, because you're a good vibe. You're not judging, you're accepting of people, and so on and so forth. And if anything, that is what we should be trying to work in our religions and in our forms of faith. Because I'm not here I'm not a Christian or a Muslim, and I do not necessarily condemn Muslims or Christians. Let me tell you, even if people like to, even if somebody, I don't know, did something very evil because they are following their faith. And I have these conversations with some of my philosophical friends, and they are there thinking, now Prophet War is telling people not to swim. And they get very angry at that. And I'm wondering, now, how does that concern you? Have you been told not to swim? Have you been told to wear clothes all over your you see, Christians, for example, like criticizing Muslim because their women wear hijab. Like, how is that any of your business? Like, why are you so concerned that another woman somewhere in Iraq is wearing something over her head? Like, who is people like to be very, they take this moral, positions of authority, and they do. And I'm telling you, that is something that is very wrong. We should understand that first of all, we should understand the idea of individual sovereignty, individual divinity. Understand that the idea of the spirit and your spiritual journey is something that is very individual to you and your God. And that is what we used to do as Africans. Nobody judged you for whether you refused to pour libation to your ancestors or not. And nobody even came to tell you that what you're doing is wrong. They may guide you, but they will not. Of course, there are people who are wrong. Of course, because it is this same soul, this same psychology, this same mind that has been in existence for years. And there have always been people who thought they were better than others. But the people who truly understood what African spirituality was about, they never engaged in any of these debates about condemning and doing other people. And I'm telling you this, guys, if we were all concerned with the matters of our spirit, we would grow. And these other people who we think are not doing the right thing would just naturally follow what we are doing, because they realize that whatever we are practicing is holy and is encouraging and very spiritual. Let me just end at that point.
It is getting hot in here. I knew this show is going to be getting hot, and it's the kind of guys that we have here today, But I can see some comments are coming in, guys. Allow me to read them through. I can see Elvis Motugi saying, following closely. Great sentiments from the panel. That's Washant is supposed to be some emoji there. This indeed is a major philosophical problem. And you also see Odoromonde saying, free Christianity has led to the Shakaholic regimes we currently face. Should they be evaluated, looked into, or how should coexistence be achieved? Okay, we'll get back to that later, but I think Karuga said something on that. Who are we? They say cast a stone. Jesus said what? I know Benedict will be telling me that better. Jesus said that for who have not seen to cast a stone. And then we see Mordecai saying, watching from Nairobi, a great discussion it is. Elvis Mutugi saying, I just need to hear some views from Benedict concerning the difference between independent ethics outside religion and ethics embedded in religion. Benedict will be taking that. And then Elvis Mutugi Mordecai responding to Elvis Mutugi saying, I tend to think that ethic and morality have nothing to do with religion. Okay. And then you see Elvis saying, is religion not a tool of defining how people should live? Does it not define morality of a society? And finally, we have Kevin Derito saying, Karugu on that point of not judging, too much sense. Too much sense. Oh man, I love this. It's getting on. So, Benedict, let me go back to you because I see there is a question that has been directed to you from Elvis, and also you'll be responding to what Odor said. But I think Arugu has said something on that. How can coexistence be achieved? But more importantly, I want you to address this one from Elvis, because also I can see time is now almost not on our side. I just need to hear some views from Benedict concerning the differences or the difference between independent and ethics outside religion and ethics embedded in religion. Please, Benedict, react to that very briefly.
Thank you. I told you that now the show is pregnant and the viewers are expecting a child to be born, but we don't know if a boy is going to be delivered or it's a girl.
Yes,
But
you tell us.
I have no authority to tell you the gender because we might have a religious miscarriage.
Yes.
Miscarriage. So allow me just to respond to these independent ethics and the ethics in religion.
Yes.
If Elvis will take a close look on genealogy of morality by Friedrich Nietzsche, who is famously known, misquoted by saying that the God is dead. He talks of these ethics embedded in religion as a form of something which constrains you, something which imprisons you, that tells there's good and there is evil. There is no room for human rationality. It is just an objective spirituality which is out there that we, as human person, we have to conform to it. It's something whereby it's a binary. It's either you do this or you get this kind of punishment. So it's kind of a taboo. Like you are told, you steal, then you go to hell. But now it has no proof of that. We have no who has ever died and told us that there is hell. Who has ever died and tell us there is heaven? We actually we believe because it is written. In matters of religion, they say faith. Where academics stop, where reason stops, faith takes over. And what is faith? Believing without seeing. And therefore, there we become like a blind religious, because we just have to do what is prescribed in the Bible, in the Quran, maybe in Taoism. There's no room for you to construct your own morality or ethics. Therefore, the ethics embedded in religion, it is caged and you have to follow. Failure to that, there are consequences. Failure, when you get it drunk and you abuse people like Washira, you go to hell. You remain good like Karugo, you go to heaven. So you just have to conform. You are just like a machine. You are controlled, physically speaking. But then when we come to ethics, individual ethics, this we call about it's master morality. It's about what the human mind reasons about and knows that killing, taking away life is bad, it's evil. Therefore, I avoid that. I'm guided by reason. If you read this work by categorical imperative by Emmanuel Kant, it's very you just have to evaluate. It matters to do with how you think, how you evaluate events, and then you form morality out of that. You are not doing it out of fear, but you are doing it because for the sake of it, good for the sake of good. Not good for the sake of going to heaven, not good for the sake of avoiding hell. Those are two different aspects. And this is where we get it wrong. When we take our religious leaders as the epitome, allow me to say, as epitome of knowledge, and then we follow them blindly without reevaluating what they are telling us to do. But because someone says, "Oh, Ashira, Dereko Morema Kenya, Dirona Gai Berire, or a Tepegu Adria Dread and 10. Gaya Berire, Bodo Akutimwega." When we hear that, we tremble with fear. And therefore, ethics, which are guided by reasons, they are fundamental elements of human existence. I'm not saying that you do away with the religion. I'm saying reevaluate the religion and find sense in that. And that's why we have the case of what my brother said about jihad. People going to the extreme And you know, Aristotle in the Nicomachean Ethics, book 6 or 7, is it that virtue lies in the middle,
Yes.
not too extreme and not deficient. And therefore, I echo the words of Karugu. Let us try to be free and let us try to follow that which is right without attributing something good for the sake of good, evil for the sake of evil, if it exists. Because we define evil, there is good and then there is evil. But now you find yourself now, these are binary way of thinking. So we transcend that. Thank you so much for that question. The other question was about how do I say it in terms of unity in diversity? We should acknowledge Christianity, African beliefs, Islamic beliefs. We should be united, but unity in diversity. Diversity in a way how we carry out these practices without condemning. There's no superiority of culture. And that's the mistake that the European settlers did, the colonizers. They thought their culture was superior to African culture. Therefore, let us be cautious before we suffer from corona of religion. Let us be careful. Thank you so much.
and Benedict, huh?
Yeah.
Benedict, I think it is across the board, both Muslims and Christians. The guys who brought us the book kinda did some sort of slave trade. So now I want to talk for Karuru, but there's a psychological aspect to it. When you look at it from outside the religion, the scope of religion, there's a psychological aspect of it. There's a question I always get asked, and I still don't have answers for, and that you look at Christianity and Islam, they literally come from the great grandfather, and that was Abraham. The first wife, Sarah, the second wife, Haggai, and these two gave birth to Isaac and Ismail. And these two have been the fathers of both the two religions, Christianity and Islam, concurrently. And that we're looking back that all these prophets who came in both the two books are from these two lineages. Our value system are literally borrowed from one side of the book to the other one. The differences we have are very minute to such a context that I feel like we are focusing on the 3% and we are ignoring the 97%. So I think there is a very minute difference. And when you look at religion in its own context, there's a question, yeah. Wakati huyu jamaa mmoja alipokuwa anazaa all the other prophets came from his lineage, this was the question I get asked. Sisi wengine tulikuwa tunaishi wapi?
Okay.
You want to tell me that there are literally no books that there are literally no other books that were actually touching on other people. Sisi wengine tulikuwa tunaishi wapi? So again, the question has always been, do these two books have concurrency because the source is likely to be the same? I'm not saying that they are the same. Yeah, but again, it's just food for thought. So again, I'm going to say we are more alike than we are different. So I unlike Karugu, who likes being a little bit on the extreme, I like striking balance in between here. I like people who exist. So yeah, that is what I had to add on it. Yeah.
You know, that is the good thing about dealing today with smart people. You have actually answered the question that I wanted to ask you. So you have also saved us some time. And also, Karugu, you'll be responding to that. And you also tell us, you know, Benedict has said there is a child being born here today. You know what that question means. So, Karugu, please, I want you to respond to that and also give your final sentiments. I can see time is not on our side. This is a discussion that I think we can also try to have it again later. Karugu?
Okay, can you kindly tell me what Omar said that I need to respond to? I kind of missed that.
Omar said that you are a bit what is the word? Okay, let me
radical.
I was being verbally provocative. Yeah. I like radical patterns, but I was just saying that I like striking that balance, just being in between, just right in between. So I was just being provocative on the radical statement. So I think
you know, Karu, before you respond, you know, I've known Omar for a while now, and he's always that guy who likes to provoke your thinking. He might say something and you're like, what are these guys doing? Anyway, he was saying that he wants to strike a balance. You are on the other end, you're a bit radical. So please, I don't want to respond to that, but I want you also to give your final sentiments before we wrap up.
Okay, very nice, very nice. So, okay, I very much love to be provoked because I tend to think that, well, I'm the sort of man who can contain his emotions, and I like to be in spaces where that can be challenged, you know. And anyway, so thank you. So what I think about my radicalization is that, well, that is me. I hope you are not condemning it because you are not in any moral authority or spiritual authority. Let me throw something
Yes,
back as
not.
well. But on matter spirituality, just friendly fire. Do not cause any jihad here.
Yeah.
So this is what I have to say. What Benedict is clearly calling maybe a religious malady. I have a vaccine. I have a vaccine, and this is the vaccine. And you only need one dosage, but of course you can keep increasing dosages if you want it. And the vaccine is understand that first of all, that the individual is divine and sovereign. Understand that you're a God, a small g God. You're made in God's image. You see, as much as I'm an African spiritualist, I tend to read a lot of Islam. I love Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I'm a very big fan of the Bible. I read it a lot. I read the Bhagavad Gita because when you read all these forms of faith, as I had said at the beginning of this show, is that at a very fundamental level, we're all trying to achieve the same thing. We're all trying to connect the human spirit with that which is most divine. So understand that this is a personal journey. Do not leave the work of your spirit to some guy who is called a pastor or a father or a bishop. You could listen to him, but make sure you're making the final decision for yourself. And that is all you should be concerned about. Are you closer to God today than you were yesterday? Maybe you try to practice things like fasting and meditating and praying. Are you better at these things than you were yesterday? It doesn't matter what Washira is doing. Maybe Washira thinks having a bottle or two on Friday brings him closer to his ancestors. You know, that is none of your concern. Let Washira do what he wants to do. If Benedict thinks wearing a robe makes him a little bit more spiritual, if Omar thinks wearing something on top of his head makes him more spiritual, that is up to Omar. Let Omar do what he wants to do. You do exactly what you think is right for your journey without the need for condemning other people. And I'm telling you, if you inject your mind with that vaccine of realizing that the individual is divine and sovereign, and that you do not have any moral authority to condemn any other individual if you're not God, then we are going to be very, very free of all this religious diarrhea, religious COVID, religious HIV, religious what, anything religious that can come. So about the child that we are about to give birth, this is up to the individual who is listening. They may choose to abort. That is up to them. If they choose to deliver something, that is still up to them. And none of us has any right to tell anybody whether they should deliver a boy or a girl or whether they should give birth at all. It is up to them and their God. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a very spiritual journey, a very, 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 very profound spiritual journey. And I thank you all for attending a discussion on matters of the spirit. Thank you for this amazing panelist, and I really enjoyed this conversation. Washira, you're doing amazing work. May God keep blessing you. May our ancestors keep shining their light on you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karu. You know, today I told people, if you are not watching this or you're not going to watch this later, I don't know what else you want. This thing is just on fire today. Yes, you can hear we have gotten some diseases and now we have an antidote. We have even, you have called it, you have a medicine to it. Now, Benedict, let me come back to you. You also give us your final comments and parting shot. And I can see this man from the Hoto called Kevin Derito is saying that a bottle man Washira, I know, but he's also saying that Washira, whenever Benedict is a guest, inform us not to forget a dictionary. So it has just gotten philosophical here. So this is just funny today. And we have Mukirai Ken saying, You had me at diarrhea. They also had me at that, man. But this one for dictionary, the man from the Goto, Kevin Delito, will be telling us that. So, please, Benedict, please give us your final thoughts and parting shots. Benedict, I don't know if you can still hear me. Okay.
Allow me to proceed.
Yeah. Omar, go ahead. I think Benedict will be back. Omar, please.
Yeah. So there is a psychological aspect for humanity and order. There is a psychological aspect for humans who just want order, and another angle for looking at it is that religion in some way was brought for it to just emphasize or bring things into order. And Karugu, I think in sometime, maybe we can discuss this to just analyze the psychological perspective of religion, not the spiritual one. So I'm going to talk about the Arabic concept that we have of the Quran. The Quran has been brought in Arabic, and when who actually brought it, and this is where I get there's a little bit of backlash. I'm sorry that Benedict is not here. Is that we felt that Christianity has morphed from time to time to time. It is a before it landed to Africa, where it is less than 105 years old. Okay, let's say 107, 108. Arabic in its sense, it came straight kutoka huko, ikaletwa huku na boti ama na meli, ikaja ikafika ufuoni. And that they did not translate the text. They kept the text in Arabic, and whoever wanted to learn the Quran, they had to learn it in the Arabic format. So the reason was that it kinda retains its original message. One word in Kikuyu might mean something else in Luya. One word in Kokomo might mean something entirely different in Kiswahili. So the change or the transfer of text from one format to the other one might construe the meaning of a given passage. So my concept, my emphasis, African conversations that we don't get to have, the originality of the African text being reconfigured, being re-researched to understand why we do things on a specific order or in a specific manner. I advocate for a value-based system where we get to look at actions from a value-based order. So yeah, I think I'm just echoing what the other panelists have been saying, but I love this discussion. I'm looking forward to having more.
Yeah. Thank you, Omar.
Thank you,
I can see Ann Hugo saying, wow. A good discussion. Well done, guys. It was fire. God bless you. Thank you. I don't know. Omar, it has been really nice. Karugu, really nice. I think we have. Oh, Benedict is just back. Before we wrap it up, I think let him come back and also give us his parting shots. Benedict, you are now back. Please go ahead. Remember,
Benedict, you want to know if that kid was male or female?
I think he will tell us, or the audience can tell us whether the kid will be female or male. But Benedict, please wrap up and give us your final sentiments.
Okay, I must say that we have moved from terminal aqua to terminal adequem. Now we are at the onset of our of our discussion, and we have noticed that the woman, the philosophical woman, has been in labor pain, and unfortunately, the doctor was a little late. So if you want to know what has happened, join us next time. So we tell you that if the woman is still in labor, or the woman decided to have an involuntary miscarriage. But we'll be here to tell you next time. So thank you and so much for hosting me. I'm looking forward to so many shows so that we can really know who is an African person and religion. And Karugu is a little bit at the onset of the cosmos. So we hope next time we'll be able to bring him at the center where we'll pull him. Because I've noticed if he was a white man, we could have seen it more tough. But thank God he's an African child, he can be able to help us. So thank you so much, Washira, and thank you our viewers for being with us. And I'm looking forward to see how we can improve African the way of thinking, so that we stop having academically dwarf who are there reeling with the nonsense. And last but not the least, a man is what he thinks, and a man is a measure of what is and what is not. Therefore, we open it to be an open discussion in matters of religion. No one has an authority and autonomy. Na nimesema na tumesema na tutasema. Asanteni sana. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Benedict. It does not get any better than that. It does not get any better than this. I think this is a discussion that should be. We'll have it again some other time with these guys. They'll tell us, Benedict has told us we come back next time to see if the child, I think that time we'll know whether the child was born, what was the sex of the child. These days we have a lot of things, especially from the Western side. And also he'll tell us if this woman went into an involuntary miscarriage or voluntary one for that matter. So thank you very much for everybody who has sent in their comments. I can see also Mukiraiken saying that some words can't actually exist in other languages. That he was, I think, responding to what Omar said. So thank you very much for all of you who has watched us live. For all of you who have sent in your comments on WhatsApp. I see my WhatsApp comments are in. People who have also sent in their comments on YouTube and on the other platforms. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you very much. Also in a very special manner to these guys who are here. Very good guys. I knew today is going to be Omar, thank you very much. I appreciate you. When you go back to Salam, wasalimu sana. Tell them here in African Kona, we'll tell them ahlan wa sahlan wa barakatuh. We are welcome very much. Also, Benedict, please salimia wale watu wa huko. We thank you very much also for Dr. Wanjala also who also joined us. And Karugua Kyugo, we are here to stay. Africa is our business. And we'll also have this conversation once again. I don't want to add anything. I don't want to, deduct anything. It's a conversation that we'll continue having. Continue sending in your comments. The conversation is still going on. You can also still send in your comments later if you watch the show later. And some other comments coming in from, we have Henriette. I don't know if I pronounce it right, but he's saying, great panel. Thank you very much. Wow. Now, guys, remember to join us live also next Sunday, another episode of African Kona, and probably this Wednesday, we might be having another State of the Continent. I don't have anything to say. It has been wonderful. It has been awesome. I want to wish you a very wonderful week ahead. Enjoy. Keep the African spirit burning. Dayo. My name is Mutadio Ashirawanyaga, Mojiro Abalia Karikizi. Dayo.